I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the torture of children by their own parents. This hour will take you through 4 tragic stories. The first one involves an influencer mom named Ruby Franke, who went from popular personality to child abuser. Here's the story. Once adored as a YouTube mom who preached tough love, Ruby Franke's picture-perfect family shattered in horror. Behind the smiling thumbnails and tidy suburban scenes, her 6 children endured years of torment masked as discipline. Prosecutors say Ruby and her business partner, Jody Hildebrandt, starved, isolated, and humiliated the kids, calling it therapy. The nightmare came to light when one of Ruby's sons escaped a Utah home, emaciated and desperate for help. The shocking images of that child exposed the cruelty hidden behind the camera lens. Ruby, now convicted of aggravated child abuse, is facing years in prison. Once seen as a model mother, she became a chilling reminder of how influence and ideology can twist into something monstrous. The children, once props in a family brand, now survivors trying to reclaim their lives, their voices, and their childhoods stolen in the name of love. And the way I want to do the analysis of these stories and these real tragedies is first identify the perceived problems that the parents had with their children, like there was something wrong with the children, a reason why they did what they did, and then take a look at their conduct and the conduct that they were accused of in some cases and the conduct they were convicted of in some cases. So as we begin with Ruby Franke, I want to take you inside Ruby's journal here, where she talks about her children's so-called problems. And this is from a redacted version of her journal. Victim R refuses to do wall sits. He says he is done. Victim E refuses to work, screams, has his hair shaved off. Victim R turns 12 tomorrow. I never envisioned him being 12 and still making a mess with himself. Like, these are the problems, right? Victim R lies, I mean, all the time. This is from her journal. This is, in her mind, what is wrong with her children. Now, I want you to take a look and a listen to some body camera video we have, the 911 call that was made that I believe exposes some of the treatment of the children by Ruby, right? This was the conduct in her mind. This is what was wrong with her kids, and here's what she did as a result.
You come in, buddy. I'm a police officer. Are you going for the union here? Hey, you okay? Is this just you in here? I'm Sergeant Tobler. What's your name? I just have one. Where's your sister at? Contact one. You okay? Huh? You doing okay? You don't want to talk to me? Yeah, that's okay.
Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
Okay. Is your door locked?
No, I'm sitting outside with him on the front patio.
Okay, cool.
And he asked us to call the police. So he's very afraid.
Are the neighbors out of their home, or is anybody looking for him that you can see?
No. Our homes are far enough away. I'm not sure. How did you get out of the house?
Porch. He went out.
He says he just left through the porch at the neighbor's house. Her name is Jody Hildebrandt. And she lives 2 doors up the street. He's very thirsty, and
Need an ambulance?
I don't think he needs an ambulance. I'll let the cops decide that, but his ankles are taped up, and he won't tell us why.
Okay.
He has duct taped around each ankle. Yeah, there's sores around them. I think there's a good chance he's been...
He also had...
Oh, and he has been around his ankles. I mean, his wrists as well. Okay, this boy has been... This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
Okay. Let's get the paramedics headed over that way, okay?
Oh, that's a good idea, too.
Can you ask him if any other children were in the home he came from?
Okay. Was there any other kids up at Jody's house? 10 and 14, and they're still at this house.
Are they tied up as well?
What's the deal with... Are they being held? Do they have wounds on them as well?
Nothing bad going on with them.
Okay. Okay. So they're able to walk around the house and everything? Well, okay. He says everything's fine with them. Grain of salt.
Okay.
He says what's happened to him is his fault. He's fine. I've got him sitting here. My wife, he got him water and giving him something to eat because he's hungry, and I think the young man, he's hearing his stocking feet. So he escaped.
Well, I'm glad that he was able to make it to
They're on their way.
He could be safe. They should just be pulling up now. Let me know when they're with you, okay?
Will do. Is Jody up there right now?
Yes.
Okay. Jody Hildebrand is up there right now.
Okay.
So she may come looking for him here soon, but he's not gonna, obviously. I think we need the cops here as soon as possible.
I'm just asking where he is now.
Yeah, she's a bad lady. We didn't realize how bad.
Now think about this: duct taping, restraining, and starving your own children. And I mean, this isn't because you're poor and you don't have money and you can't. No, has nothing to do with that. The home they were living in was seven-figure home. All right, brings us to the first question in our investigation. Why didn't Ruby Franke get outside help to deal with her children if they were so bad? Why go to the extreme of duct taping them? Why was there no other solution going through her mind? Here to help answer that question, clinical psychologist Dr. Colin King, who's evaluated nearly 100 murderers, including the Oxford High School shooter, and national parenting and family relationship expert Dr. Sue Kornbluth. Great to have you both here. Now, in some respects here, I'll start with you, Dr. Sue, she did sort of get outside help. It was Jody Hildebrand, the one who sent her husband away and the one who seduced her into her bedroom, right? And that's where she was living, at her house. So I guess in some respects that's outside help, but I'm thinking like some solution outside of duct taping, restraining, and starving your own children. What's going on?
Well, what's going on here, Vinnie, is she did get help, but she got help from like a cult ideology that this other woman, Jody Hildebrand, was feeding possibly into her. And let me be clear, okay? This was not the kid's fault. This is Ruby's fault because she was the one that was parenting these children, and it's abuse that was going on here. I think she did all of this and didn't let another therapist in because she knew what she was doing. She also had to finance her channel on YouTube where she was making a lot of money, and she didn't want anybody finding out what she was doing, Vinny. And that's what people do that are covering up things that they know that are wrong.
Dr. Colin King, her YouTube channel was famous for sort of like, you know, tough love, right? Not, you know, kind of disciplining your children. You know, she did some stuff on YouTube that people questioned. Family Services looked at the videos. There's nothing, you know, actionable here. But how does someone get to the point where duct tape is the solution to my parenting issues with my child?
So, Vinny, thanks for having me on. So if you see your child or the children as problems and yourself as the solution, then it's not very difficult to sort of descend into the depths of depravity. Here is someone apparently, quote unquote, very successful, at least well-known, popular, and engaging in the most egregious forms of child abuse. When you begin to dig into the mind and sort of dive deep into the minds of these people, you see sickness, mental illness, and I'm not making excuses for them. They know what they're doing, but they have to find excuses to continue doing what they're doing to satisfy the part of them that is calling for revenge or discipline or whatever rationale they have mentally formulated. And that's why these parents and guardians engage in these type of devious type activities.
Dr. Sue, let me ask you, can these children ever have a relationship at some point in the future with their mother? Would it be healthy for them to do that? Or would it be more healthy to just stay away from mom?
Yeah, so Vinny, yes, they're going to have a lot of different feelings about this. I hope that they do receive the kind of therapy that they need to heal from this trauma and abuse. That is going to be a personal decision for each one of them in terms of whether they want to have a relationship with her, to forgive her, and move on from that. I think each child will probably have a different reaction based on what happened there. Is it possible to have a relationship with your abuser after the fact? Yes, as long as they set up boundaries for themselves with their parent.
Dr. Sue, great to see you. Dr. Colin King's going to stick around. Coming up next, why didn't Shanda Vander get outside help to deal with her child?
There were leg shackles in the first common room where Timothy's bed was.
I'm going to ask you a lot of intensely personal questions. How do you explain it? The worst crime anyone can imagine. Do you feel like you took the fall for this murder? Tell me in your own words, what happened? Let's get started.
Interview with a Killer. New season premieres Saturday, October 25th. Only on Court TV.
Norton Shores, Michigan police respond to an emergency call at 4788 Marshall Road. There they find 15-year-old Timothy Ferguson dead inside the home.
If you do this job long enough, you're going to see a lot of things that are very disturbing, are disgusting.
According to police, Timothy had special needs. He was severely malnourished, and there was evidence of abuse.
It's clear that this wasn't the first time that our victim, this 15-year-old, had suffered the hands of neglect and abuse.
Timothy Ferguson's mother, Shanda Vander, and his older brother, Paul, were arrested. Investigators described how they say Timothy's family members brutalized him.
As punishment, our 15-year-old was subject to ice baths, was subject to not being fed food other than bread or bread soaked in hot sauce.
A neighbor spoke off camera with local station WXMI about the family.
It seemed like she was just, she's really to herself a lot.
According to the neighbor, Vander and her family had lived in Norton Shores for a couple of years.
She doesn't come out much. Kids don't come out often at all.
Investigators say Vander moved to Michigan from Oklahoma, where she had been investigated by child welfare authorities.
So this story involving this young man named Timothy who lost his life, was killed, was murdered. Shanda Vander is his mother. His mother did not have custody. The father had custody in another state. Shanda Vander was actually prohibited from having custody of Timothy. But she ended up with him and then ended up getting convicted of his murder and is doing life in prison as a result. I want you to take a listen to Shanda Vander because she did testify, talking about why she had custody of Timothy to begin with, since her ex-husband, or the father of Timothy, had custody legally. She did not. Take a listen.
When did Timothy come to your care?
May of 2021.
Prior to that, who had physical and legal custody of Timothy?
My ex-husband.
Okay. And when he sent, and how did it happen that you ended up with custody there?
My ex reached out to me, stating that Timothy he could no longer handle him, that he was pushing his buttons, and that he needed to send him to live with me.
Okay. And you agreed to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's the backstory. So what happens when Timothy ends up being with Shanda? Well, her and her other child, Timothy's brother, end up torturing him, eventually killing him. Take a listen.
Forgot to tell you this before I left. Timothy was doing his fake stumbling and falling last night, of course, so I decided to prove once again how fake it is. I asked him if he would stop doing that, if he would eat a whole pizza by himself, and he said yes, of course. And then I told him how obvious it was that he was being fake, and he had just proven that yet again, and of course he just looked down and didn't respond.
There were leg shackles in the first common room where Timothy's bed was. There was a drawer. The desk area was really cluttered, and there was like a little stack of drawers, and it was open, and in the drawer was a set of leg shackles.
What did you understand from that text message from your mother about where Timothy had been up until the time you were at work at 11:30 at night?
Still in the tub.
So that's 9 hours plus from the time that you first put him in the tub at 2 o'clock?
Yes.
The camera in his room needs to be picked up, please. Lots of hot sauce for that. What do I do if he doesn't finish within the assigned time? Hot sauce. Do you recall while Timothy was in the tub, an exchange where your mother inquired about pouring hot sauce on his private parts?
I do, yes.
Did you do that?
No. That was beyond as everything else was.
This was one of the most disturbing cases of child torture that we've dealt with here in the history of this network, Shanda Vander. And it brings us to the next question in our investigation. She didn't have legal custody. Why didn't Shanda Vander get outside help to deal with her child? If you couldn't handle him or you had problems, why? Here to help with our investigation, clinical psychologist Dr. Colin King, who evaluated Shanda Vander. Also joining us, psychiatrist, forensic specialist, and medical health expert Dr. Yalda Safai. Dr. King, I know you're limited in some of the things that you can say here, obviously, but what about this concept of Timothy? You know, the father had trouble dealing with him. She had a little bit of a history. What do we think is the circumstances here on why a mom would take in a child that seemed like she wasn't equipped to take care of?
Vinnie, this has easily been one of my most baffling cases of all cases. Here you have a very intelligent attorney. I believe, she could make circles around both of us with her eyes closed. Very smart lady. And yet still, she engaged in these egregious acts. She felt that she was the help. She didn't need outside help. She was the mom, she was the attorney, and in her mind, she was doing the right thing. In fact, if you listen to the opening statement by Fred Johnson, he said, Your Honor, this case is weird. And on that basis, he referred the case to me for my evaluation. And at the end of my evaluation, I felt myself echoing exactly what he said, because it didn't make sense. But when you begin to dig deeper into the mind of this brilliant attorney, you see evidence of serious and persistent mental illness. Again, I'm not making excuses for her, but there is a lot there to sort of uncover.
Yeah, Dr. Yildiz, the level of torture which resulted in the death of this young man, 15 years old, is so baffling for people, because and in this case, this is a child that she didn't have custody of, that she had lost custody of, and her husband or her ex was having trouble with all the issues associated with handling this young man who had some special needs. What are your thoughts here on how you go from that situation to this is the solution? These cuffs are the solution. The hot sauce is the solution.
From my experience treating families with special needs children, a lot of times these families don't know where to seek help. They become very overwhelmed. And as a result of being overwhelmed, they might act out, they might hit their kid, but they end up feeling a lot of remorse. They end up feeling bad about it. So one reason people might not seek help is because they just don't know where to start. However, in this particular case, it seems like based on everything she was saying on the stand, she was rationalizing and justifying every single act she did. So it appears like in this particular case, that was not the case. It wasn't a case of, oh, I don't know how to seek help for my kid. It seems like more she knew what she was doing. She felt like she was she better knew what she do. Everything she did, every act of torture, she rationalized it by saying it was a form of discipline. So it seems like she felt like she knew better than anybody else. And it doesn't, based on what I heard, it doesn't seem like she even tried to get help. So I don't know why she didn't have any custody in the first place, but the dad might have just not known where to get help. And that's why he gave the son to her custody, but who knows?
Yeah, and I guess the alternative, Dr. King, is bringing the state in, right? Where the child services to help you with this situation, or even take custody.
Yeah, but if you don't need help and you don't think you need help, why would you seek help? In her case, she really did not think that she needed help. She thought she was teaching him a lesson. She was going to discipline him until he was obedient to her every wish and her every command. And unfortunately, because the kids were secluded, they were cloned in silence and isolation, help was not even available. The kids were not going to school. So outside intervention was very unlikely. And she felt, even as she went to work on a daily basis, she had to keep control of her family. She had to teach this kid a lesson. She had to punish him. She had to show him how to behave. In her mind, she was doing the right thing. Which is why this case is so baffling.
Yeah, Dr. King, Dr. Safai, always great to have you both on the program. I appreciate it. We'll see you again really soon. Still to come, why didn't Kimberly Sullivan get outside help to deal with her stepchild? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the torture of children by their own parents. Our next case involves a stepmom and 2 decades of alleged abuse. Here's the story. In a quiet Connecticut town, a chilling story of family, fire, and fear unfolds. Kimberly Sullivan, a stepmother once seen as a pillar of her community, now stands accused of unimaginable cruelty. Prosecutors say she tormented her teenage stepson, a boy already scarred by loss and instability, driving him to the brink. When a devastating fire tore through their home, investigators uncovered disturbing clues, signs of abuse, neglect, and manipulation. The teen, desperate and broken, allegedly set the blaze himself, a cry from the chaos within those walls. Sullivan's defense insists she was overwhelmed, not monstrous, a woman struggling to control an impossible situation. But the images of the burned home, the frightened child, and the web of secrets left behind a darker picture. In court, one haunting question remains. Was she a stepmother trying to save a troubled boy, or the reason he lost control? In each of the stories that we're taking a look at tonight, the defendants, the accused, have described the children, the victims in these cases, as having issues. I want you to take a look at this in this particular case. And this is from the arrest affidavit. The male victim stated that he was permanently pulled out of school due to the fact the school he was attending contacted the Department of Children and Families based on what he was doing in school. He was always hungry. So when he was at school, he would ask others for their food, steal others' food, and sometimes eat food out of the garbage. And I think this is a case of the chicken or the egg, right? Is he hungry and starving because he's not being fed at home and looking for food to eat out of the garbage? Or is he constantly eating and therefore his food at home is limited? And I think that's one of the issues that is going to be dealt with in this case when it goes to trial. Now, so what are the allegations of the way this child was treated, who eventually became a man, because this whole case broke when he was in his 30s? Let's again go back to that arrest affidavit. He was extremely emaciated. His hair was matted and unkempt. He was very dirty, and his teeth all appeared to be rotten. He stated that he'd been locked in that house his entire life, adding that Kimberly Sullivan keeps him locked inside his bedroom. It got to a point where the only time he would ever be out of the house once his father died was to let the family dog out in the back of the property, stating that it was only about 1 minute a day. When asked if he was hungry every day, he stated, "All day, every day, my entire life." He was forced to use bottles and newspaper to dispose of his waste. He had not bathed in a year or two. And remember, at this point, he's 32 years old. He was their secret, stating, "I've been kept a secret my entire life." Kimberly Sullivan is the stepmother. The father, had been in the picture until he passed away a couple of years before all of this happened. Let's get to the next question in our investigation. It's all about the stepmom. Why didn't Kimberly Sullivan get outside help to deal with her stepchild, who is her stepchild but is an adult at that point? Here to help answer that question, nationally known psychotherapist and author Dr. Robbie Ludwig, and forensic psychologist and host of Killer Psychologist podcast, Dr. Dana Anderson. Great to have you both here. All right, Dr. Robbie Ludwig, what are your thoughts? This one's really different than most because the allegations of abuse go over the course of 2 decades, past childhood, past puberty, past adolescence, into adulthood. Why do you think Kimberly Sullivan didn't reach outside of the house, maybe even after the husband passed away, to get help for this stepchild of hers?
Well, very simply, this stepmother didn't feel she needed help. You only go for help if you're at a breaking point or you have some sense of awareness that what's going on in the home is not healthy, or that you're at a loss of how to have a healthy interaction with your stepchild. But in this case, the stepchild obviously had some mental health or some developmental issues, which allowed him to be scapegoated. And for this stepmom, controlling and abusing and scapegoating him allowed her to feel in control and maybe even satisfy some of her sadism. She was known as a very controlling woman. So as long as she could have this person that she was controlling and she was keeping a secret, she felt somehow centered within herself. Clearly, there were mental health issues, but this is a woman who was able to maintain her psychological strength by scapegoating and abusing her stepson. And that's why she never really felt she needed any help, because she was managing herself in a very unhealthy way, but in a way that helped her feel alive or in control in the world.
Dr. Dana Anderson, this case will be going to trial. There's obviously always two sides, at least two sides to every story. Let's take a listen to Kimberly Sullivan's attorney.
He's 32 years old. She could not control whether he took care of himself properly or not. He was 32 years old. What I can tell you is she denies ever restraining him. She denies ever locking him in a room. She denies ever depriving him of any of these opportunities. My understanding is there was always food in the house. There was no restrictions on the ability to get food in the house. And I know you asked about earlier, but what I can tell you, when the police went in that home, there was food in the cupboards, there was food in the refrigerator. My understanding is he had access to this. We disagree with the premise that he was ever locked in that room or that any of those exterior locks were even used.
So, Dr. Dana Anderson, even if you take into account the defense's version here that there were still problems with this man at this point, and still there was no outside help that was attempted to be given to this 32-year-old. What do you think's going on here?
Well, seeking help at this point means exposure, because, at some point, what you're doing has gotten out of control. And how did we get here? She's now has to conceal it for this extended period of time, for decades. So early on, we know there were multiple CPS reports from 1996 to 2005, over 9 years. There were six CPS reports where there could have been intervention. And obviously, Kimberly Sullivan, she doesn't believe that she needs help, but there should have been, a full investigation by CPS. And clearly, there wasn't follow through. There were all the signs at school, right, where there could have been an intervention. There was neglect. Those are the red flags where they could have done a follow-up. I think this case, according to the attorney, is saying, giving this defense. But I think there's going to have to be a mental health evaluation, and I think I'd be very curious to do Kimberly Sullivan's mental health evaluation to see what type of mental health defense, if any, they're going to use in this case.
Absolutely. All right. Dr. Robbie Ludwig, great to see you. Dr. Dan Anderson is going to stick around. Coming up next, why didn't the Ferreters get outside help to deal with their adopted child?
Being locked in a room, it's dehumanizing.
Donna Adelson was part of a conspiracy to kill her former son-in-law, Dan Markell.
He's not going to survive.
Oh my God!
Dan saw Donna as dangerous.
She's the matriarch mastermind.
She's just being a parent, not a killer.
Victim to Verdict with Ted Rollins. Season finale, Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific. And during the finale, don't miss an exclusive preview for the new season of Interview with a Killer, only on Court TV.
Tim and Tracy Ferreter were arrested in February of 2022. The parents of 4 were charged with aggravated child abuse and false imprisonment of their 14-year-old adopted son.
On the single-car garage was where there was a room built in there.
The Ferreters are accused of physically abusing their child and forcing him to live in an 8x8 box they had custom built in their garage.
He asked me to build a box, basically, and he asked me on top of that to build a ceiling for that box. He asked me to add a deadlock to the door.
A month before the Ferreters were arrested, their contractor, who was told he was building an office, tipped off the police that something wasn't right.
He asked me to reverse the locks. On my way home with my employee, something felt wrong to me, and the only reason I could come up with is that it's not an office, and this place is made to lock a person inside.
On January 28, 2022, Tracy Ferreter called 911 to report her son had run away. Police soon discovered the strange room in the garage. She told police several stories: that it was built to be an office, that it was used for storage, and that it was a timeout spot for the missing boy, who she said suffered from behavioral issues. But surveillance video showed the child was forced to stay in there up to 18 hours a day. Police found the boy at his middle school a day later. He told them his parents were abusive and violent towards him. And he told the police about the box-like room he had to stay in with nothing in it but a mattress and a bucket. His siblings confirmed his allegations.
A mattress, a bucket, and there was a camera in the ceiling providing surveillance the whole time. Now, the parents, in both of their trials, they talked about the issues that their 14-year-old adopted son was having. Take a listen to the testimony of Dr. Myers talking about reactive attachment disorder.
We might discuss reactive attachment disorder. Are you familiar with what that is?
Oh, yes, I am.
What is it?
It's a diagnosis, a condition where a child is deprived, usually during the first 2 or 3 years at least of their life and earlier, of consistent, supportive, appropriate parenting. So they don't have regular nurturance or contact with a caregiver, a parent.
And this is a condition that the Ferreter said, you know, this child must have obtained prior to them adopting him. Now, the child himself, a teenager, testified in the case. You'll hear his voice. Here's what he said about being kept inside of that box in the garage.
Did you like being in that room?
No.
Did you want to be in the room?
No.
How did it make you feel?
To me, being locked in a room, it's dehumanizing. It's almost as bad as genocide. It's saddening to abuse a child that was just acting like a child, never thinking of what an adult would think to do to a child that would succumb his or her efforts in daily life to succeed, suffering from emotional pain, suffering, trauma.
So this was a case, again, where the Ferreters talked about, and their lawyers talked about, the issues and the fear, the danger that they believed or perceived would happen if their child was allowed to sleep in a bedroom inside the house. Brings us to the next question in our investigation. Talking about mom and dad here. Why didn't the Ferreters get outside help to deal with their adopted child if they felt like it was a dangerous situation? Here to help with our investigation, author and nationally certified mental health clinician, Shanda Brown. And still here with us, forensic psychologist, host of the Killer Psychologist podcast, Dr. Dana Anderson. Okay, Shanda, you know, as I recall during the trial, they did talk about attempting to get some form of help, but help was not available. Is there a lack of help available for a parent that's in a situation like this, that you have a child that you believe is a danger perhaps to the other children inside the home, and you want to do something?
No, there is not a lack of help. As a matter of fact, when children are adopted, they are provided with so many services to use for in-home and out of the home. If the parents didn't get help, it's because they didn't want it, not because it wasn't available to them. There's so much in between a child who is not behaving properly and abusing them. And so it doesn't sound like they wanted that. They wanted control, not help with parenting. And when you want control, you stick with abuse. So it sounds like they did what they intended to do.
You know, Dr. Dana Anderson, this is a case, this was a beautiful home in a beautiful neighborhood, swimming pool, the whole 9 yards, and one child was living in the garage. Why do you believe they didn't seek outside help, social services, whatever it takes to try to deal with what they perceived as a problem child?
Well, I heard a statement from Tracy after she was sentenced, and she still mentioned being a perfect family and a completely loving family and just trying to do the best we could. So it seems like she didn't want to fracture this image of being this perfect family. And now here they are exposed. And ironically, she is sentenced to treatment, 12 hours anger management, triple P parenting classes, and they're getting court-ordered treatment. And so there's always treatment available, and now it's ordered by the court. She's on home confinement.
You know, the tragedy here, Shanda, you know, for this 14-year-old, whatever issues he was dealing with, this was not going to help. It's not going to help him get better, locking him in a box.
No, not at all, especially with a child who has a diagnosis of reactive attachment disorder. Usually when those children are, you know, sheltered with love and care and concern, they can turn that around. And it sounds like in this situation, it was exacerbated. It wasn't turned around as it was intensified. And at some point, children will become extremely defiant because it's what they're learning. And I don't think it goes the opposite way. You don't abuse a child and expect them to become meek and mild. They actually get worse. So I'm guessing that that is probably what happened in this case.
And a couple of the facts that folks couldn't get out of their minds, myself included, Dr. Dana Anderson, is the conditions inside the actual box, right? Like, everyone knows, you don't give someone a bucket. You don't lock the door from the outside and leave a bucket in there, whether it's 4 hours at a time or 10 hours at a time or 18 hours at a time. Like, everyone knows that's just wrong. Why didn't they?
Well, one of the things I didn't hear from Tracy either about these conditions is I didn't hear any regret or remorse or taking personal responsibility. I feel she deflected and made statements about still being a perfect family. And so I'm hearing this theme of denial. She's still not living up to the tragedy of the situation and owning up to her part.
We are out of time, unfortunately. Dr. Dana Anderson, thank you so much. Shanda Brown, great to have you both here. We ran short tonight. You know, the reason I wanted to do this hour is because of the unfortunate trend we've seen here at Court TV. And I think it's important to try to understand how this can happen, because the more we know, the better chance we all have of being able to spot a child in danger and help them get rescued from a dangerous situation. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.